Welcome to Wish I Had Known, the show where hindsight meets insight. Host Jodie Lamb has worn many hats in the world of finance, from navigating the intricacies of financial planning to unraveling the mysteries of insurance claims and diving deep into the realm of structured settlements. Each episode explores the topics that make you say, if only I had known this sooner. Join the conversation as we uncover the insights that can make all the difference. This is Wish I Had Known, because knowledge is power and hindsight is 2020.
Welcome to another episode of Jodie's One Question, where we talk about the one question or one topic that you're interested in and our subject matter experts are loving to share with us. Today we're joined with Jennifer, CEO and founder of Quantum Insurance Services and of WOW. Jennifer, are you ready for your one question today?
So ready. I can't wait. This is so much fun.
Love it. Fantastic. All right. Well, before we get started, why don't you tell us a quick information about yourself, who you are, and what is your area of expertise?
Sure. So I'm owner of a firm that does insurance consulting. We are high-level independent producers when it comes to insurance. So we look at the entire market and we look to find the logical truth of money within the financial world of life insurance and annuity products by comparing all the products in the industry against one another. So we do a lot of high-level work with business managers, accountants, attorneys, and other top-level advisors to help them advise their clients on the way to maximize the value of any insurance products with which they're engaging. And I'm also, as a sort of passion project, co-founder of a really wonderful nonprofit for women called WOW. It stands for Women of Wealth, and it's dedicated to helping women improve their financial literacy, fluency, and mastery through brass tacks conversations with one another.
Wow, that's impressive. Okay, so I suspect that you're well prepared for this one question, and I think everybody who's listening is in the U.S. going to be wanting to hear, what is the number one misconception that we have preparing and going into retirement?
Oh, that's a great question. I would say the biggest misconception we have as Americans is that there's some sort of social safety net for our long-term care needs. It's something I'm pretty passionate about because my own father had a terrible stroke about 7 years ago. And he didn't have adequate protection. He didn't have any long-term care insurance, and he didn't have enough retirement to pay for his needs, which was $10,000 a month of round-the-clock care in his own home where he wanted to be living. And unfortunately, the baby boomers are only just beginning to hit that peak period of time where long-term care becomes more likely. And so the demand for long-term care is increasing, which is increasing cost because you know the laws of supply and demand. So what most people don't realize is that in 30 years, the average cost of long-term care is going to be $1.3 million per person. And Medicare doesn't cover it. And you're kind of on your own in this country as to what you're going to do. And it's like this giant tsunami of future problems just waiting to hit the fan. So it's really important for people to get good information and try to incorporate a long-term care strategy into their retirement portfolio.
What happens if they don't put that in place today? What's their alternative later?
Well, that's a really good question, Jodie. What happens is 75% of the time, let's just say, the woman in the family, it's usually the daughter-in-law, whatever, ends up having to lose hours and hours of years and years, too, of time and become the in-home caretaker for a sick and elderly relative. So it's really well documented. 75% of in-home caretakers that are non-paid are women. And the average woman ends up losing about 2.5 years of time out of her career taking care of somebody. It's devastating. And it's just this kind of untalked about burden that women are about to face at some point in their lives unless they've planned to protect either their own elderly relatives and or themselves. That's a burden that they'll end up passing along to somebody else too. So it's just one of those things where, I'm in risk management. So for me, everything is about what do you know is a risk that you can cover today affordably so that you don't have to face that worst case scenario And I'm a little bit obsessed with this, that no one seems to be knowing about this. And I wouldn't say no one. I mean, I get calls every single day. Hey, my financial advisor told me I need long-term care. Can you help me? And the answer is, of course, yes. But you would think more people would know this, and they just don't.
As a mother, as a daughter, I don't want to shift that burden onto my own children. When is the best time to start looking at long-term care, understanding that we have to buy insurance before we need it, and typically the younger we buy it, the cheaper it is. But where's that sweet spot? When should we be having this conversation, if not now, in our planning strategy?
Great questions. So if you're going to buy traditional long-term care, you probably want to do that in around the age of 50. It's like you better do it, or it's going to get really cost prohibitive, and you may not be able to afford it. And it's also getting harder and harder to get approved for long-term care because the insurance carriers, they're no dummies. And so they don't take bad risk anymore because they're losing a lot of money. People are living way too long, way longer than they expected. So if you've like sneezed recently, or I mean, I'm kind of exaggerating, but I'd say right now for traditional long-term care, about 1 out of every 3 clients I'll take to the market can actually get approved. So if you wait a little too long, you have too much in your medical history that impacts your ability to even buy the product. So I'd say max age 50, you should be having conversations. Now, there are also these really interesting hybrid products that have evolved that are life insurance products with long-term care riders baked right in, which personally I love because there's a lot of really cool things about them. And if you're going to do one of those, you can start them anytime. You can start them as early as 30, and the sooner you do it, the better, because it allows that death benefit, which is also your long-term care benefit, to grow over time on your behalf. So then the sooner the better, and the younger the better, because you know the time value of money.
So if we want to find out more about this, Jennifer, how do we reach you? How do we find you? And what does the process look like going forward?
Oh, sure. Well, we do, a lot of being insurance nerds for people. And if you ever have a question about insurance, I encourage anyone and everyone to reach out to Quantum. Quantum Insurance Services can be easily found. Our website is www.quantuminsuranceservices.com. If you go there, there's like a little contact us button, and it really brings you right to our consultants who are, trained like me, intelligent like me, and commissions agnostic, which is really important. We're not here to sell, we're here to advise. And we work with every carrier that has an A rating or better in the entire country. So you have access to a universe of products that's much larger than if you go to just, your New York Life or your Northwestern Mutual agent or your State Farm agent. And it's a really great way to help find the more affordable way to get the protections that you need. So you can try us there. You can give us a call at 424-286-2481. We actually do have phones still. And you can always email me personally at jennifer@teamqis.com.
I love it. As one insurance nerd to another, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining us in another one question topic. I think long-term care is absolutely something that we need to make sure that we are addressing in our retirement planning. You're absolutely right. I had the mistake of thinking that was something I could cover with my employer-sponsored plan. And not only you're telling me that's not the case, but it's also not covered by Medicare. And that's a huge financial exposure that we all need to be aware of. Thank you so much for sharing. Do you have any final parting words that you wish to share?
Yes, thank you. Jodie, thank you for helping people learn important things. It's such a complex subject. And also, thank you for being an insurance nerd in the industry. As you and I both know, only about 2% of top-level insurance nerds in this country are female. So congrats to you. And thank you for being a fellow insurance nerd who happens to be female.
Cheers to you, my friend. Wish you all the best. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. Please like, share, and subscribe so you can hear all of Jodie's chats, so you don't have to say, "Wish I had known." Welcome to Wish I Had Known, the show where hindsight meets insight. Host Jodie Lamb has worn many hats in the world of finance, from navigating the intricacies of financial planning to unraveling the mysteries of insurance claims and diving deep into the realm of structured settlements. Each episode explores the topics that make you say, if only I had known this sooner. Join the conversation as we uncover the insights that can make all the difference. This is Wish I Had Known, because knowledge is power and hindsight is 20/20.
Welcome to Jodie's One Question series, where we talk about one question or one topic you want to know about. Today we're joined with Christine Zharova. She is a seasoned attorney with a diverse legal background. Christine brings over 15 years of litigation experience to the table. She specializes in defending physicians, medical practices, and hospitals in complex cases ranging from medical malpractice to business disputes. Welcome, Christine.
Hi, Jodie. Very nice I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. So are you ready for your one question?
Yes, fire away.
Oh, excellent. All right. So can you tell me what is going on with the changes in healthcare and how is this impacting individuals, businesses, and physicians?
There's a lot that is changing in healthcare. I can speak from the perspective of patients and I can speak from the perspective of physicians. I speak with a lot of physicians about their issues and their struggles. I work with a lot of physicians and their groups in, like you said, litigation. Most of my practice currently is focused on contractual business disputes, but there are a lot of cases that I handle that involved contractual disputes involving physicians. What I'm seeing a lot from the physician perspective is the burnout that they face from the traditional practice of medicine. That has definitely driven a lot of them to start their own practices, their own direct care practices, their own concierge practices. And from the patient perspective, what I'm also seeing is patients being driven to join those practices, to go to a physician that provides concierge services or go to a physician that provides direct care services. And they do that because, as we all know, right, a lot of times you go to the physician, to your doctor, and they're in and out. You've got 2 minutes with them. You don't feel like you really have that one-to-one connection, that time with them. And I mean, as patients, I think we all want more time. We all want better care. We all want to have the ability to have a conversation with our physicians where we don't feel rushed, where we don't feel like we're imposing on them. And so from the patient perspective, a lot of them are going towards direct care practices to get that additional level of service.
I'd not heard of concierge service before recently. Can you elaborate on that, what that is?
Sure. Concierge services is basically when the physician, strike that. Concierge practices are for physician groups that will charge their patient an annual fee a lot of the time. They have much less patients. They don't take on a full patient load like they would in a regular practice of medicine that takes insurance. They do not take insurance, and depending on how it's structured, physicians may also charge you a fee for your visit. However, that physician is available to you a lot of times after hours, on weekends, and once again is able to provide a connection and build a relationship and give you the time that you need in order to discuss whatever concerns you and really address your needs.
So this doesn't replace traditional healthcare insurance, but if one was interested in complementing their existing insurance with a concierge service, what does that look like?
So absolutely. Concierge practices and direct care practices do not replace your insurance. In fact, a lot of the physicians in their contracts with the patients are very specific that the patient still has an obligation to maintain their health insurance for, when you're going to the hospital, if you need procedures, if you need surgery, things like that. So that remains there. It's just basically an additional level of service that the patient is willing to pay for in order to be given that extra time and attention. Typically, concierge practices are more on the expensive side. Not everybody, not every practice, but a lot of them are. But your direct care practices, are practices where a physician may charge you $50, $75, $100 a month. They may charge an additional cost when you see them, but it's not significant. It's not very expensive. It's usually below that fee. And the patient not only gets the benefit of having that additional time with the physician, but the physician is also able to pass on the savings for labs, right? If you and I go to the doctor and we get our labs done, it's like $1,000 bill, your insurance pays $500, and then you're stuck with $500. A lot of times, because of the way that physicians structure it and the networks they join, they're able to significantly reduce the cost of labs, the cost of diagnostic studies, down to like $20. So there's a huge benefit that patients are seeing. They may be paying an additional cost for a monthly fee, but they're saving significantly on other services like labs and diagnostic studies.
Okay, so I've had no shortage of medical treatment in the past. I've had chronic back issues. I've had a recent experience where insurance was dictating care, and I got to the point where, like, I don't care what this costs. I want to have this diagnostic imaging done or this follow-up appointment to be done because something's not right, and we were waiting for insurance to approve it, which was crazy. I find that insurance is often dictating patient care. Is that something that physicians feel as well, or is it just one-sided where the patients are the ones struggling?
I think you hit it spot on, Jodie. Absolutely. It's felt by both the physicians and the patients. From the physician's perspective, you have to imagine the overhead costs associated with fighting insurance to get approvals for certain procedures or medical treatment to getting paid, right? They spend so much money on those overhead costs. And it's also frustrating for them because they're the provider, they're the practitioner, they're the ones that went to medical school. And if they believe that it's in the best interest of the patient to have a certain treatment or diagnostic study, it's very frustrating for many of them to have that be denied and rejected by an insurance carrier, which is not in the practice of medicine, right? A lot of physicians enter the practice of medicine because they care and they want to help. So that also contributes to the significant stress that they feel, and the burnout contributes to the burnout that they experience. From the patient perspective, as you know, it's highly frustrating when you're in pain, you feel like you need to get it resolved, worked up, your physician agrees with you and creates a plan of care and believes that some diagnostic study is going to help him or her diagnose what's going on with you, right? And then that request is denied by the insurance carrier. Oftentimes it feels like very arbitrary. And that's one of the reasons why patients will seek concierge services, direct care services, and also I forgot to add specialty care services. So you have direct care practitioner, which are your internists, your primary care physicians, and then you have specialty care services where specialists like podiatrists, pain management physicians, will create their own specialty care practices to provide you with that specific care on a cash pay basis.
So for the physicians looking to break the mold and do that specialty practice, what's involved with that? And what usually triggers that decision is it the burnout? Is it the litigation? What is it that motivates physicians to make that change?
Yeah, there's so much of that. All of those things are huge factors in physicians' decision to leave the traditional practice of medicine and start their own practices. When I defended physicians in medical malpractice lawsuits, I saw the significant level of stress that litigation caused, just like I see it now with non-physicians going through business dispute, right? Litigation is extremely stressful. It is a very personal process, and that certainly contributes to the burnout. In addition to the long hours, the expectations, the electronic medical record keeping, the fighting with insurance carriers, oftentimes it culminates to the point where they don't want to practice. They don't want to live like that anymore. And what I've seen from a lot of physicians, just in networking with physicians, a lot of them find that entrepreneurship is one of the ways that they break out of that burnout. And a lot of them, they start their own direct care practices, specialty practices, or go a completely different route. And so it's definitely a combination of all those things that you discussed that get them to the point where they're like, you know what, enough is enough. I want something different from life, and they start practices.
So what was their first step? What do physicians do that want to make that change for a positive work-life balance, to get the reward for the service that they've done in a way that feels meaningful to them, that they get to make their own decisions in their practice? Who do they contact to make those changes?
My recommendation is to really have a good business plan, maybe speak with a financial advisor to make sure you're set up for that, and have a business plan in terms of identifying and understanding where you're going to get your patients, right? You don't want to quit your traditional practice of medicine, leave a hospital, leave your group, and start something and not have any patients for a year, because that's only going to add to the burnout and the stress. So definitely have a business plan in place. Talk to your financial advisor to make sure your ducks are in a row, and then seek an attorney's assistance to make sure you're complying with your state's regulations, any applicable federal regulations, to create your own practice. That would be, I guess, those are the top three things that I think the physicians should start with.
Christine, why would someone need to reach out to you in this healthcare evaluation, in the litigation process, in their expertise of business?
So physicians reach out to me if they're going through either a business dispute, or, if they're in an employment contract and they leave that employer and the employer is suing them. So I do represent a lot of physicians in claims against them for breach of their restrictive covenants, which is basically breach of non-competes. So we do provide those services at the firm that I'm currently in. And then I also, physicians reach out to me that want to start their direct care practices, their specialty care practices, their concierge practices, along with, right now I'm helping a non-healthcare practitioner start a multi-state telehealth practice, and that's been really interesting and rewarding. So we're seeing a lot of, non-traditional ways to provide services. And this specific telehealth practice is also going to be a cash pay service. So, there's definitely a trend towards that. And I think that it provides physicians an alternative way to practice medicine and takes them back to the roots of why, the roots of why they entered into the practice of medicine to begin with. It gives them that time with patients. They feel better because they feel like they're not in a rush. They're not, spending half of their day fighting with insurance companies, and they can take less patients and still make the same amount of money or more.
I think post-COVID, everybody has a whole new appreciation for the stress and the burnout that we see in our physicians. Mm-hmm. Christine, this has been extremely informational. If we have physicians, if we have people in our network who need to reach out to you, where do we find you?
Absolutely. So I work at a great firm. It's Bird Campbell, BYRD, Campbell, CAMPBELL, like Campbell Soup. We're in Winter Park, Florida, and I'm happy to reach out. You could reach out to me through LinkedIn to connect. That's where I'm most active in, or through the firm.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us. This is another fascinating conversation about learning things that we may not typically have a conversation on, but potentially really need to know. Myself, the concierge service is a great way to supplement the current insurance plan that I have. I have a super high deductible, so mm-hmm. to be able to have access to a physician and not get nickel and dimed on every single test and the exorbitant mm-hmm. cost, I think that impacts just the regular John and Jane on the street who could definitely explore those options for their own personal healthcare needs. Thank you so much for sharing this information with us, and for the physicians that are looking to step out and try something new, and to combat burnout and to really maximize their happiness in their chosen profession. Obviously, you do a lot of great work for them. So thank you for your time and your service. This is another wrap to the series, questions of what one question, one topic we need to know. Thank you so much for joining us, Christine.
Thank you, Jodie.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. Please like, share, and subscribe so you can hear all of Jodie's chats, so you don't have to say, "Wish I had known." Welcome to Wish I Had Known, the show where hindsight meets insight. Host Jodie Lamb has worn many hats in the world of finance, from navigating the intricacies of financial planning to unraveling the mysteries of insurance claims and diving deep into the realm of structured settlements. Each episode explores the topics that make you say, "If only I had known this sooner." Join the conversation as we uncover the insights that can make all the difference. This is Wish I Had Known, because knowledge is power and hindsight is 20/20.
Hi, I'm Jodie Lamb. I'm here today with Eric Blake, a certified financial planner with Blake Wealth Management. I am calling on him today for Jodie's one question, the one topic, the one conversation that you want to hear. He is the host of the Simply Retirement podcast and helps women who are preparing for retirement and has a wonderful story to share. But today we're going to ask you, Eric, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into what your one question is.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. So I've been a financial advisor since 1999, meaning I've gone through all the ups and downs, Y2K, 9/11, great financial crisis, seen it all. A few years ago, we started our primary focus working with women who are approaching retirement, typically less than 5 years from retirement, where they're really in that critical phase of making these important decisions about Social Security, about taxes, about income planning, to make sure that they can live the retirement that they deserve.
I mean, that sounds ideal.
You think so?
Yeah, sign me up. Okay, so I'm not quite yet 5 years from retirement, but I'm a definite planner. So if I'm going to be anticipating retirement in the next 5 years, here's your one question. Okay, what are the three big things that I need? What variables do I need to take consideration, or what do I need to be prepared for to have an ideal or best set up retirement?
So that's a great question. And realistically, the three keys to a successful retirement for women are really you'd make the argument that they're the same three keys for anybody. But when we're thinking about women who are approaching retirement on their own, which is our primary focus, the three keys really come down to, number one, we want to talk about optimizing Social Security benefits. And optimizing is different than maximizing. And most people, a lot of times when you talk to a financial advisor, you talk to anybody, you hear maximizing Social Security, which simply means trying to get the highest benefit. A lot of times that makes the most sense, but there are several situations where it may not make the most sense. You may need to start Social Security earlier for whatever reason, or you may have gone through a divorce, you've been widowed, maybe you have some of these other benefits that are available to you, spousal benefits, ex-spousal benefits, survivor benefits, where based on your specific situation, you need to look at optimizing your Social Security benefits, which also takes into consideration taxes, which is key number two. What I call minimizing your lifetime tax liability. The bottom line is the less you pay in taxes, the better off you're going to be, the longer your money's going to last. Nobody wants to pay more than they should to Uncle Sam. I can use the phrase, we're all okay paying what we think we owe, what's our fair share. We just don't want to give Uncle Sam a tip. So that's key number two. Last one, key three, is investing smarter. We know that, at least historically speaking, statistically speaking, women live longer than men. So the fact is, we have to make sure that your money lasts as long as you do. That's a big key, right? Nobody wants to outlive their money. But that a lot of times takes making sure you're making decisions that are in your best interest when it comes to how do I invest my money? How do I generate an income from my investments that I can't outlive? And there's two big points to that, in that, number one, being too conservative can be just as bad as being too aggressive. A lot of times, when we work with women, which is our primary client base on their own, they think in their mind, as soon as I retire, I need to be extremely conservative because I don't want to lose anything.
Right.
Well, that makes a lot of sense, except when you think about what's inflation done the last couple of years. When inflation's 8% and you can get 6% on a CD, you're still losing money. It's just not because of the market. You're losing purchasing power, which that's the bottom line, is we want to maintain purchasing power throughout retirement, which could be, if you retire when you're 60 or 65, most likely you need another 20, 25, maybe 30 years of income in order to, again, not outlive your money. So from my perspective, those are really the three keys to a successful retirement, especially for women who are facing retirement on their own, is optimizing Social Security, paying as little in taxes as is reasonable, and making sure that you invest smarter.
All right. This speaks totally into my world of structured settlement, y'all. I mean, tax-free, that's right up my alley, with investment tax-free, being conservative. We deal with the people that have a lot of medical needs and financial needs. So that absolutely resonates with me. But the one thing that you said that really challenged me is the Social Security. It's not just maximizing Social Security, but optimizing it. And you had shared earlier about tips for even divorced people like myself. I'm now looking at this as an individual facing and looking at retirement planning. So how does that change if we're divorced versus married?
Well, the fact is, most people, they don't really, number one, they may not even be aware that they are eligible for benefits based on an ex-spouse. Now, that could be what we call ex-spousal benefits based on that ex-spouse's work history, meaning that as long as you were married for at least 10 years before you divorced, you've been divorced at least 2 years, and your ex-spouse is at least 62, you could apply for ex-spousal benefits, which is going to be up to a maximum of 50% of that ex-spouse's benefit if that happens to be more than your own benefit. Now, that's again, back to that optimizing thought process. We want to optimize your benefits, but that means we need to understand what your options are.
Is there a limitation on how long it's been since the divorce happened in that application?
Nope. Those are the bottom. 10 years is the key. As long as that marriage lasted at least 10 years, so marriage date to divorce date has to be 10 years. And this is where it varies from spousal benefits. So if it's a married couple, you can still apply for spousal benefits, but the working spouse, let's say the higher earning spouse, they must have filed for their own benefits first before you could file for spousal benefits. That's not always that doesn't have to be the case with ex-spousal benefits.
Oh, okay.
As long as the other spouse, the ex-spouse, is at least 62, you were married for 10 years, and the divorce happened at least 2 years ago, you could potentially still apply for ex-spousal benefits, whether your ex has applied for benefits or not. So that's a big key. Again, if it's a cash flow issue, unfortunately, we know that women, either because they've taken time out of the workforce to take care of family, whether that's children or parents, relatives, where that's typically falls on the women's shoulders, or for whatever reason, they've been out of the workforce. You have 0 years in there. You might even not be eligible for anything, for any type of retirement benefit. But this gives you the option of having some source of income in retirement, which is, again, that ex-spousal benefit. The other thing to be aware of is, and this is really one that people kind of glare over at, and that is you actually could be eligible for ex-spouse survivor benefits. Same rules apply. You've been married, the marriage lasted at least 10 years. You don't get remarried before the age of 60. You could be eligible for ex-spouse survivor benefits, which is whatever that spouse was receiving at the time, that ex-spouse, whatever they were receiving at the time, or what they may have been eligible for, you may be eligible to receive that if that ex-spouse passes away, which is huge, again, from a planning perspective.
So one of the other things that I think that you commented on earlier that I think everybody's going to want to know, we worry about how this is going to impact the ex. Are they going to find out about it? Are they going to have a reduced benefit? Like, what does this mean to the other spouse or the prior spouse?
Well, if the ex-spouse passes away, we're not too worried about it, right? So we don't
no
worry
one's
about that
complaining.
part. Ex-spousal benefits, though, it doesn't impact them at all. Now, in today's world, there are many scenarios where somebody's married to has multiple ex-spouses where they were married for at least 10 years. Each of those ex-spouses, as long as the marriage lasts at least 10 years, potentially could be eligible for ex-spousal benefits. So they're eligible for up to 50% of that ex-spouse. It doesn't impact that ex-spouse's benefit themselves. Also doesn't impact if that ex-spouse has remarried, say, a third time. Their current spouse doesn't get impacted as well either. So that's a big factor there. And again, it's just understanding how all these rules. Social Security to me is one of the most underrated, undervalued aspects of retirement income planning because it seems straightforward, but there's so many variables that just people aren't aware of. Especially if you think about, maybe you were divorced 20 years ago. People forget about it. They not that they forget that they were divorced, but they kind of forget that whole situation. Either they want to push it behind, keep it in their past. They don't want to think about it anymore. But that could be, ultimately, it could be the difference in thousands of dollars of income by being aware of you being able to receive ex-spouse survivor benefits when that spouse passes. Because again, most likely the woman is going to outlive the man.
Every penny counts. And especially when, like you said, we'll pay our due taxes, but we don't want to give Uncle Sam a tip. That's I love that quote. Yes. Okay, so we're 5 years within retirement. We want to get in contact with you. What are the other things that we need to do to mitigate the taxes? And then I want to find out, how do people get in touch with you so they can get more information about their unique situation? The
biggest thing I could encourage is be proactive. Number one, if you're not familiar with how the tax laws work and they change constantly, we had in 2019 we had Secure Act, and then last year we had Secure Act 2.0. So understanding how all these different tax rules and tax laws impact you from a retirement income planning standpoint is crucial. Now, whether you have the opportunity or the time to learn that's a big question. If not, make sure that you're talking to somebody that does. That's a big focus of our practice. Like I said, we spend a lot of time evaluating. I'm one of those people that actually enjoys reading through tax laws and understanding how all this stuff works. Nobody else likes that. But it's crucial for our clients. Again, back to the 3 keys. Optimizing Social Security, minimizing taxes, investing smarter. I always put Social Security there first simply because, again, it's one of those underappreciated planning aspects. The taxes is most likely the most important because you think about in retirement, your biggest expense, it's either going to be healthcare or it's going to be taxes. One of those two. Healthcare, unfortunately, we can't always do something about it. We can try to be as healthy, eat healthily, work out, do all these things that hopefully extend our life and make us as healthy as possible. But taxes is something a lot of people don't think they can control, but in reality you can, but you got to be proactive. You got to understand how the rules, how the laws work. And that's where we come in.
And we all need those experts in our life. So Eric Blake with Blake Wealth Management. Yes. How do we find you? How do we get a hold of you? Best way is to go to blakewealthmanagement.com, and we got a lot of free resources. You can sign up for our newsletter. We've got our blog. You can access our podcast, the Simply Retirement Podcast, where we talk about a lot of these same types of topics that women face as they navigate the retirement journey on their own. The other thing you can do is in the top right corner, we have our Start Here button. Okay. Click the Start Here button. You can see the exact process that we go through with every single prospective client to help them make an educated and informed decision about whether we are the right firm for them. And that's a big thing for me is, being in this industry for as long as I have, I believe everybody has the right financial advisor for their situation. Yeah. What we've done is we've created a process that we think helps people make a decision about us. Are we the right firm to help them navigate the retirement journey? What I call the Simply Retirement Roadmap process. The Simply Retirement Podcast. You can always hear them on there as well. Absolutely. I appreciate that. So thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. I would love to continue this conversation for longer, but I know you have many demands on your schedule, as do all of our listeners here. Thank you so much for joining us today on Jodie's One Question and the one topic, the things that you want to know or you need to know. Look forward to seeing you guys next time. Take care.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. Please like, share, and subscribe so you can hear all of Jodie's chats, so you don't have to say, "Wish I had known."